Another healthy dose of power is coming up, a roadster from Britain called the Autocraft AC Mark IV. Now that might sound familiar. The Mark IV is basically a 1986 version of the famous AC Cobra that won races and lots of speeding tickets back in the 1960s and then went promptly out of production. Well, this new one is built using equipment from the original AC factory, but the car does use up-to-date components. So what happens when the old and the new come together to form an exotic car? It becomes a time machine. You steal from the past and cheat on the present all at the same time. The 1986 AC Mark IV has a body full of recent history. It's built in Britain by the new Autocraft company. They formed the body panels and most other parts the same way AC did for the 1967 Mark III. We knew that car best as the AC Shelby Cobra 427. But Carroll Shelby and Ford both claim the Cobra name, so Autocraft can only use the AC logo legally. Many other things about the car are the same now as then. The chassis is made up of 4-inch diameter steel tube. The top is a masterpiece of snaps and flaps. If it rains, forget trying to put it up, though we have seen it done in under 5 minutes. But that's only part of the novelty. Try the side curtains. They slide open and can be pulled off in a jiff. Those side curtains allow the Mark IV's doors to be thin, and the interior is 4 inches wider than in 1967. Cabin length is also up by ½ a foot, and the seats are near the original design. To bring them up to government specs, Autocraft did add removable headrest. Still, who says you need roll-up windows? Actually, the interior of the Mark IV does have a modern air. Round gauges are vintage, but their script is current. Likewise, the climate controls and most all switches. However, you get only natural air conditioning. There is an adjustable steering wheel. It not only tilts, but telescopes too. The gearbox is modern, thank goodness. It's a BorgWarner T5, probably the best for the money front-engine rear-drive manual shifter made. But take heart, there's plenty else to remind you just how British all sports cars used to be. The Mark IV's hardware looks like it's in a time warp. Protruding chrome license plate lamp, T-handle turning trunk lever, flip-open gas filler door, and dual-locking bonnet latches. Everything looks authentic, that is until you open the hood. The 7-liter Fomoco power of 2 decades ago has been replaced with last year's 5-liter HO motor. Engine compartment detail, like the polished firewall, is first-rate. Even though its 210 horsepower is tons less than the Cobra 427, it can still do a proper job, big bore 4-barrel and all. But take heed, when the current supply of engines is gone, fuel injection will take over. Neck snapping acceleration still remains king for the Mark IV. 0 to 60 is 6.1 seconds. For the record, that's about 2 seconds slower than the 1967 427. The quarter mile zoomed by in a remarkable 14.4 seconds at 93. That's more than adequate for whiplash. The wheels actually use wire locks for the spin-off hubs, and they are nice reproductions of the original Halibrands. Tires are now state-of-the-art Gatorbacks. The hub wrench looks like a dangerous weapon, though, and along with the full-size spare, takes up a good portion of the boot. The suspension is an upgrade of the old wishbone coil spring design, but it takes advantage of high-tech refinement in spring rates, shock response, and bushing stiffness. The steering gear is from the current Mustang GT. The result of all this is an almost civilized combination of ride and handling. It still takes a good grip of the small wheel, and the car doesn't always like to respond immediately to inputs, but with so much power, it can be coaxed out of turns with little fuss and a throaty roar. Getting sideways in a Mark IV is more fun than trouble. It stops pretty well, too. Brakes are a large disc at each wheel. They take a lot of pedal pressure, though, and we did have some locking at the right front wheel during the measured test. Average distance was 120 feet from 55. Later the same day, the brake lockup problem lessened, and distances seemed to be much shorter. So, how much for all this history in the remaking? Well, it's our cheapest exotic at $48,000, or for whatever the dealer can get. Each dealer acts as an independent importer for Autocraft, and we'd like to thank Bob Begley of Clinton Ford for loaning us one of theirs. After all, only 35 cars will be flown here this year. That's 35 out of a total production of only 50. Talk about exclusive. But that is the name of the exotic car game. So if a Ferrari is too Italian, the Lotus too eclectic, and the Lamborghini doesn't quite match your self-image, you can always try some instant history. The AC Mark IV could even become a legend in its own right.